Good morning, friends. On this delightful Thursday, we had a relatively easy day. We had a drive from Thorpe to the Himalayan Gardens in Grulthorpe. I got to do a few things today that I haven't been able to do before. First off, being when we left Thorpe, we decided to go against the suggestions of Sally Satnav and head in a different direction to how she wanted us to get there. So we went, and the first exciting part was I actually got to drive over Burnshill Bridge, which you would have seen already. And the number of times we've gone past that bridge and we've never thought, oh, let's just drive over for the heck of it. I'll never know, but we drove over it today. So hurrah, finally drove over Burnshill Bridge. Then we drove from Burnshill almost to Pateley Bridge, changed directions to head through Heathfield, past the Gouthwaite, Gouthwaite Reservoir, through Ramsgill to Loft Houses, then on to Leighton. At a certain point, we got to some roadworks, and the road was down to one lane with traffic lights, and we sat at this red light for ages. A tour bus came through, and so we thought they had a green light, and so we thought, well, we'll wait for our light to change to a green light, and it never did change. I think we'd still be sitting there, to be honest with you. So we could see the traffic backing up in the opposite direction, and our light was still red, and because we were facing downhill, we could see all of the cars on the other side, so eventually we just drove through the red light. We did manage to actually go back that way, and the same cars weren't still sitting there that were sitting there when we went through the red light. So at least they managed to figure it out at a certain point. Then the ever so exciting other thing that I've always wanted to do was to drive through a ford crossing, and we did that today as well. So this happened just before we reached Swinton. And I got to drive through the ford, which was very, very exciting. I was absolutely gleeful. So gleeful, in fact, that it went completely out of my head to stop and take a picture of the occurrence, and I'm genuinely disappointed in myself. So, bad Ashley. Anyways, having made that lifelong goal a reality, all I can say is drive slowly, and this particular ford had a stick with markings on it indicating how deep the water actually was. The max level, I think, was 6 feet. I don't recommend driving through a ford that's 6 feet deep, but luckily it was only around 1 or 2 inch marking. Otherwise we would have had to have turned around and gone a different way, but I got to drive through the ford. So we reached the Himalayan Gardens and Sculptures Gardens, and they are known for their blue and yellow poppies. So it's a blue poppy with a yellow center. There's a picture in a little bit, I think. John and Angela think Mom and I are telling tall tales because they never did get to see one, but we did. Then the rhododendrons, etc., were all stunning, and a lot of these bushes had been there upwards of 100 years, and it's amazing how plants can just manage to survive long beyond us mere mortals. We stopped in the cafe, had lunch, wandered the gardens, looked at the various sculptures and bushes, and I made a daisy chain. I was disappointed that my offer to make daisy chains for all of us was declined. Just killjoys, really, just killjoys. And I did manage to wear it for the rest of the day, even for dinner, and the poor little daisy chain was so wilted by the end of the day, but it was much fun while it lasted. With the exception of the ford, we went back basically the way we came, having to stop at the never-changing red lights again, but I wasn't fooled this time. I stopped to make sure everything was clear, and then we continued on our way back to Thorpe. I hope you enjoy the rest of the adventures, and I will chat to you in the next one. Bye! sorry, it's me again. It was such a beautiful, beautiful sunny day that when we got back to Thorpe, we thought we would fly the drone and get a picture from the drone of the sun on the front of the manor house, which it was. It was an absolutely beautiful, glorious, glorious sunny day. Unfortunately, the weather had other plans. It was so windy that the gimbal on the drone couldn't focus and couldn't function, to the point where I had the drone take off, and when it was about a foot off the ground, it just took off down the village. And I'm really glad it didn't run into one of the stone walls, because it was about 6 inches off the ground, and it just whoosh, it just went. It maybe went 100 feet with me trailing after it in shock and surprise. So that was hilarious. We did fly it a little bit. Some of the pictures are quite funny. They come up in a minute here, but it was no good. It was absolutely no good. So we never managed to get a picture from the drone of the manor house in the sunshine, because that poor little drone, even when I did get it, 50 feet off the ground, it was still being bounced around like a ship on high seas, although it was a drone in the wind. So it was acting a bit like a kite, really. I could have done with a string attached to it instead and flown it like a kite. That would have been funny. C'est la vie. Can't always have perfect weather for everything. All right, that's me done again. Sorry, I interrupted your viewing.